Have you ever poured your heart into something beautiful, only to be told it was wrong? Picture this: a front yard bursting with color, roses glowing deep red, tall proud sunflowers following the arc of the sun, and little marigolds glowing like gold coins at the edge of the walkway. A garden that made neighbors smile, a place that felt alive. Now imagine opening your mailbox one morning and finding a letter that doesn't say thank you, but instead demands $1,000 in fines for planting flowers. That's exactly what happened to me. By the way, I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever dealt with an HOA, or heard of rules this strange before? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you're enjoying these calm but dramatic stories, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps me keep bringing you more tales just like this. My name is Daniel. I've lived in my neighborhood for about 10 years. It's quiet, lined with neat driveways, white mailboxes, and streets that curl like gentle ribbons around small parks. Like most suburban communities, we have an HOA, the Homeowners Association. When I first moved in, I thought of the HOA as a group that mowed the lawns in the park, fixed the street lamps, and maybe sent out newsletters. But as time passed, I realized they were also the rule keepers, the ones who decided how uniform the neighborhood should look. They wanted green lawns, trimmed hedges, and homes painted in shades of beige or gray. Now, I've always loved gardening. For me, it isn't just a hobby. It's how I unwind after work. Some people sit in front of the TV. I pick up a watering can, kneel in the soil, and breathe in the scent of damp earth. It calms me. Little by little, I turn my front yard into a tiny oasis. Not wild or overgrown, just a neat little garden full of seasonal flowers. Roses by the window, lavender by the porch, or a row of marigolds along the edge of the sidewalk. Kids walking home from school would sometimes stop to look. A neighbor once told me, "Your flowers make this street feel cheerful." So when I found that notice from the HOA, folded neatly in an envelope, I couldn't believe my eyes. The letter was short, but sharp. Your property is in violation of HOA landscaping guidelines. Unauthorized plantings. Fine imposed, $1,000. Remove immediately. I read it again. $1,000 for flowers. My first reaction was confusion. Surely this had to be a mistake. The flowers weren't weeds, they weren't overgrown, and no one had ever complained. I called the HOA office. A man answered, one of the board members. His tone was flat, almost rehearsed. "Sir, your yard disrupts the visual harmony of the community. The fine stands unless you comply." Visual harmony. That was their phrase. I tried to argue. I explained that my garden was neat, that neighbors loved it. He interrupted me with a sigh and said, "If you'd like to appeal, you may attend the next board meeting. Until then, payment is due." When I hung up the phone, my hands were trembling. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the principle. Why punish someone for bringing beauty into a neighborhood? As days passed, I received another notice. This one was harsher. Failure to comply may result in legal action. I felt cornered. But I wasn't ready to give up. One evening, I sat down with a binder, the thick stack of HOA bylaws every homeowner receives but almost no one reads. I made myself a pot of tea, opened the binder, and began flipping page after page. Most of it was dull legal talk, Section 12, Article 5, Subsection A. But then, somewhere in Section 14, under Community Enhancements, I found a small line. It read, "Exceptions may be granted for plantings that contribute to ecological benefit or neighborhood beautification." I froze. That was it. My flowers weren't a violation. They were an enhancement. The next few days, I turned into a detective. I took photos of my garden at sunrise and sunset, capturing the bees hovering around the lavender and the butterflies resting on the sunflowers. I knocked on neighbors' doors, asking them to write short notes about how the flowers made the street brighter. One elderly neighbor wrote, "These flowers remind me of the gardens I grew up with. They bring me peace." With every letter, every photo, my case grew stronger. Finally, the evening of the HOA meeting arrived. I put on a clean shirt, tucked my papers into a neat folder, and walked into the small clubhouse where the board gathered. Around a long wooden table sat 5 board members. At the front, a woman in glasses adjusted her files. Beside her, the same man I had spoken to on the phone glanced at me, expression unreadable. When it was my turn, I stood up, laid the binder on the table, and spoke calmly. "I'm here regarding the $1,000 fine for my flowers," I began. I read aloud the section from their own bylaws, the line about ecological benefit and beautification. I handed over letters from my neighbors. I showed photographs of bees, butterflies, and the colorful blooms. For a moment, the room was silent. The man who had dismissed me before shifted uncomfortably in his chair. One board member whispered to another. Finally, the woman in glasses cleared her throat. "In light of the evidence provided," she said, "the fine will be dismissed. Mr. Daniel may keep his garden." Relief washed over me. The fight was over. That night, as I watered the flowers under the soft glow of the porch light, I felt something more than victory. I felt peace. The marigolds glowed like tiny lanterns, and the lavender released its calming fragrance into the cool air. What I learned from this experience is simple: sometimes, rules aren't as rigid as they appear. Authority often depends on people not questioning, not reading closely. But if you stay calm, gather facts, and stand your ground respectfully, you can turn the tide. The HOA tried to fine me for beauty. But in the end, beauty prevailed. So the next time you see a garden, remember, it might be more than flowers. It might be a quiet act of resilience.